Can you smoke bacon on a pellet grill? Yeah, you can, so quit buying it. It truly is easy to cure up some bacon and smoke it. But there's one thing that sucks. You gotta wait a while before you can cook it up. So grab a box of salt, Eric. We're gonna amplify some backyard barbecue fun. The first step to making bacon is that we need to cure it first. And when I'm picking out pork belly, I typically look for a thicker cut. But sometimes you can maybe get lucky and find them at your local butcher shop. They're typically trimmed up a little better than the ones that you find at Costco. One thing that I started doing lately is I put some paper over the top of my table, and that's my notepad. Because the first thing that you need to do is weigh each individual belly that you're doing. Then I just label it and jot down the pounds. The recipe that I use is in grams, and it's really simple to use. So the number that you're gonna use to figure out how many grams of pork belly you have is 453.592, which means there's 453.592 grams in a pound. Now it's just simple math. Take the weight of the belly times it by 453.592, and that's gonna give you your total weight in grams. Now that we have that figured out, we can do what I call making a batch. And you're gonna make a batch for every single belly that you're going to cure. And for this cure, I use 4 simple ingredients. First, we need some good kosher salt. To figure out the amount of kosher salt that you're gonna need, take your total weight in grams and times it by 0.025. Second, we need some pink or curing salt. For the pink cure, take your total grams and times it out by 0.0025. Third, well, we need some sugar. For the sugar, I times that by 0.01. And finally, I use maple syrup to help this cure stick to that belly. After I get each individual ingredient measured out, then I dump it in a gallon bag. This just makes it easy to mix it up and twist it around so all of those ingredients get combined well. Roll up them sleeves because we're gonna get a little messy. Shove that belly inside that bag and grab your maple syrup. I just get about a quarter cup in my hand and smear it around the belly. Then I take about half of the cure and start wiping it across the belly. After I get it all coated, it's time to flip it over and repeat this same process on the other side. Now you might get a little syrup on your arms, but toughen up. It washes off. After I get them all coated up, I seal up the bags and put them back in the fridge. This means we're starting the curing process, but it takes 7 to 10 days. And after each day, you're gonna wanna go back in the fridge and flip them over. This just helps distribute that cure throughout the whole bag. Once you've reached that 7 to 10 days, we're at the process that I like to call the rinse and drying process. Which is pretty simple to understand, but we're gonna take these bellies out of the bags, put them in the sink, and rinse off that curing solution. Make sure you use cold water and rinse them down pretty good. On the next part of the rinse cycle, as we can call it, I learned from my good friend Rusty Lamb over on Instagram. He makes a ton of bacon. He suggested that I soak these bellies for a couple hours after I've rinsed them off. Well, he was right. I've never had any over salty tasting bacon since I added this step to this bacon procedure. Just take your bellies, and if you have a big meat lug or some type of big pot, go ahead and put some cold water and let these bellies soak for 1 hour. Then dump out that water and repeat the process. And trust me, you're not like taking all the salt flavor out of this bacon. You're just making it more even. Once you're done soaking the bacon, go ahead, take them out and pat them dry with some paper towels. Try to get as much excess moisture off from that belly as you can. Put it back in the fridge uncovered and let it dry for 1 to 2 days. For me, when I'm doing several bellies, I typically air dry them for a couple days. When I'm doing 2 bellies, 1 day in the fridge is long enough. Today I'm using the Traeger Timberline XL. You can use any pellet grill that you want. If your pellet grill isn't quite as big as this one, it's okay. Just cut your belly in half and use 2 racks. Or smoke half of it, and once that part's done, start the second half. So we'll get Easy Bow fired up here. Yeah, I named this Traeger Easy Bow. You're gonna wanna set your pellet grill at the lowest setting because this bacon is already cured. We're just adding smoke to it. We're gonna actually take this belly, start slicing it up and throw it on a frying pan and start eating it. But bacon ain't bacon without some smoke. And for all of you that are wondering, I'm using hickory pellets, but I'm also going to be using some smoke tubes. Now you don't have to use smoke tubes, but this certainly does speed up the process because I really don't want this bacon to cook much. Now on this pit, I'm actually going to use this middle rack. It's starting to smoke a little bit, so it's time to suit up. And that's a porcobello. Gonna just place it right here on this shelf, and I typically like to squish it together just so it gets kind of even, because how we put it in is how it's gonna cook. Plus it helps when you're packaging and you're slicing them up. Now I am gonna use a probe on this belly. I do like to monitor the temps because I don't really wanna cook it over 120 degrees. Plug in our probe, and we're just gonna kind of place it right in the center. That'll work. Right now I'm gonna close this up because I gotta light up a tube. Stick her in the top a little bit, get her lit. Once it's flaming, blow it out, and we're gonna go ahead and put her right in our pit. Ooh, she just closes. Now this one I gotta fill up, but we'll just go ahead and get some pellets out of the hopper. Light her up, and we're gonna put this one in here too. I like to stand them up because it hits the top of the dome and it kind of comes down on top of the belly. Really want the belly to turn that nice mahogany red. And the last thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna add the super smoke to this pit. Because remember, my only concern is getting a bunch of smoke on this belly. That's it. I'm gonna set a timer for 1 hour, and then I'll come and check and see if we're starting to develop that nice mahogany red color. Plus it's getting cold in here and I gotta turn my heater on. I'm 1 hour in and you can see that there's a lot of smoke in my studio. It certainly has helped to add those smoke tubes. For some of you that might be wondering, the Traeger's been running right around 160 degrees up to about 170, 173. See, it says 160 degrees. Oh yeah, I can see a little bit of color on it, especially on the ends. You can see the smoke starting to develop. Close up the lid, and I'm gonna set a timer for an hour. I'll check it again, probably rotate that belly, and then most likely run it for another hour. Now remember, the internal temperature doesn't really matter to me, but we are reading right around 82 degrees. So I still have a good 40 to 50 degrees before I'm gonna start thinking about pulling this belly out. I'm 3 hours in and we just reached an internal temperature of 120 degrees on this pork belly. We can call it bacon. Oh yes. After I rotated this belly, I also placed that smoke tube right in the center because I wanted to get more smoke on the center cut. But we're done with the smoke tubes, so let's get these out. These are gonna go outside. Neighborhood's gonna smell really good. But you can definitely see this bacon got some good color. Go ahead, pull out our probe, and shut off the Traeger. This certainly is good looking bacon, but the sad fact is I can't start slicing it up and eating it yet because I want this smoke to permeate. So once it cools down, I'll go ahead and vacuum seal it and it goes back in the fridge for 2 days. Yeah, unfortunately, I gotta wait 2 more days. My 2 days of that bacon just sitting in the fridge and sucking up all that smoke is done. So I took the bacon out of the fridge and cut off the cryovac. I actually cut the belly in half just to make it a lot easier when it comes to slicing. I only have a small 10-inch blade on this slicer, but it does a good job, but it's hard if you're running a whole belly. Then I sorted them out into approximately 1-pound packages, put them in some food saver bags, and sealed them up. But I didn't seal up all of it. I kept a few slices so we could do a taste test. And we're just gonna fry them up on this Traeger's induction stove using a cast iron pan. I'm gonna suit up. We'll turn our induction to about 50%. Now while that's heating up, let's just take a little bit of look at this bacon. Looks like bacon. All right, I can feel a little heat on this pan. Let's get some of this bacon in here. If you're looking for a more in-depth video on the curing process to making bacon, I'll put it at the end screen or I'll link it to a card above. Might as well flip her over once. Those little induction stoves get hot in a hurry. We're pretty much done. We'll just shut her off. There we are, some fried bacon. Now these pieces came out of the center cut and that's the best part of the belly. So let's try a piece. I can obviously taste the hickory smoke. And the salt level is perfect. If you do that soaking, you ain't gonna have to worry about over salty bacon. This is so simple, it's just time consuming. It takes a while to get to this point, but it's so worth it. So don't be afraid, just start making bacon at home and you can thank me. Well, that's all I got. Roll the nation.